Sit! Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Rich Dotson. He's Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
He's Garret Price.
How's it going?
I got a whole 24 ounces of water next to me, 40 ounces of water, so hopefully that cough goes away. But I'll be extra slurpy out of the mouth, though. Don't worry about me suffering thuckatashers.
Whoa. Easy.
As I wipe the saliva off the side of my mouth. That's right. I have over
Active
pituitary glands.
saliva glands.
What's pituitary?
Not that.
What is that connected to?
I think you'd be
Hippo?
like giant if you had overactive pituitary glands.
Is that what it is?
I think. Not 100%.
I have no idea.
I'm not Dr. Dick, so I don't know what's going on around here. But today's show is ADP. So the season's over, and we at Dynasty Nerds always have massive ADP
Pituitary
updates.
glands.
Pituitary.
Elephantitis.
Now we're talking about testicles, huh? I'm in.
It could be other areas of the body.
Any other area. Literally any other
No, just
area.
testes.
Nope.
Wait a minute.
Straight to the testicles.
You have elephantitis elsewhere?
Yes,
Yeah.
any part of your body could have elephantitis.
That's not true. I thought it was just literally on men's genitalia.
Nope.
So my dad was lying to me. I'm just kidding. I don't have a dad. I gotcha. Now who's stupid and alone? Never had anybody play catch with.
He said it with a smile, okay?
People were like, why didn't you play sports when you were little? I was like, nobody taught me how. I was a lonely kid. No, I wasn't lonely.
Garrett, you okay?
I don't know how to feel about this. I feel so sad.
It's part of Rich's
And
backstory.
so funny all at the same time.
that I know. So
I mean, I did know that, but it's still just.
So we run mock drafts. With a whole bunch of dads out there.
You're such an ass.
And not dads too.
Oh.
And moms. And single moms and non
grandparents, maybe.
birthing people. And yeah, so we run up to date ADP. We run mock drafts throughout the whole month.
Yep.
Shout out to Peter for taking care of that and run our social. And we get ADP because ADP is very important, right? Like it tells you what rankings are fun, but ADP tells you what the people are thinking right now. And when you're making trades, it's a very good tool to use because it's going to show you who's up, who's down, right? So if you're down, or say you go by our rankings and they're drastically different, to either buy or to sell. And of course, during startup drafts, it's very, very helpful because it tells you where you could draft a player and where you shouldn't draft a player. And doesn't mean don't take a player a certain spot, but like if you love a player, we always say, hey, go ahead and jump around of ADP to make sure you get your guy if you love him. But it's also going to help you from saying, oh man, my guy's Terry McLaurin, and you go, I'm going to take him here in the first. Again, if you're a novice, you go, oh, no, wait, 'cause he just finished a wide receiver 1. You can wait till the 5th round to grab Terry McLaurin.
Even more.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley was running back 1. Whoa, I can wait till the 2nd round to grab Saquon Barkley. So we're going to kind of go through some of the notes. I had a whole bunch of notes here, and they got deleted before the show. I feel terrible about it. So I'm going to try and go off of memory here. But let's look at, right now I'm going to give you everybody, this is Superflex Tight End Premium ADP is what we're going off into. And this is live up until today. So this is very current ADP. I'm going to give you right now the top 12 in Superflex Tight End Premium.
It's tight.
The top 12, and see if there's anything here that really sticks out to you.
Okay.
It goes Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes, Jamar Chase, Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, Joe Burrow, Brock Bowers, Bijan Robinson, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Herbert. Does anything stick out for you there?
Only
or too high?
one, kind of.
Kind of.
And it's not even terrible.
It's going to be the same one, I think.
Mahomes?
Yeah, Mahomes.
Mahomes
F1.
seems a little high. Like I still think he's a first round guy.
Yep.
I don't think he should be out of the first round, but I at this point would definitely be taking Hurts and Burrow ahead of him. The 2 receivers I'd probably take ahead of him. Bowers I would take ahead of him. Bijan I would take probably ahead of him. So I'd probably have him at 10. Is probably where I'd have him. I'd probably still take him over Herbert and CD, but I'd probably have him closer to 10 and he's currently at 4.
Yeah, I think it's a really good spot for him, like you said, at the back end of the first, because I feel no different from a fantasy perspective of having Justin Herbert and Pat Mahomes, right? Yep. So I do feel different from having Jamar Chase and Nico Collins, right? Yeah. So and that's what you're looking at here. And these are the decisions you got to make in the first round. Like, I lean towards grabbing a quarterback in the first round. I really do. But guys that I'm willing to break the exception for would be Bijan, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Brock Bowers. And I want to put CeeDee Lamb in there, but that team is in such flux right now at the same time. I'd rather just go ahead and grab my quarterback and then be comfortable getting Drake London, Marvin Harrison Jr., Nico Collins.
CeeDee Lamb finished as wide receiver 8, and he was injured for most of the season with his shoulder. So
yeah,
I mean, he's a very. I agree though that the whole situation there in Dallas is up in the air, so to speak. Sure. We don't know who the quarterback. I mean, who the coach is going to be. Obviously, the quarterback's locked in, CD's locked in, but beyond that, we don't know all the other pieces. The wide receiver 2, the running back of the future. We don't know.
Offensive line,
right? If they're going to fix that and get that kind of up and running. So yeah. I get why CD is there. But I think we saw a down year of CD, and he was still wide receiver 8. So I think he's still in that conversation. I don't necessarily see him getting drafted at 11 as being a bad ADP or anything like that.
And for me, it just goes to where he goes there, right? Again, I would rather go ahead and grab Justin Herbert, right, or Pat Mahomes or Joe Burrow, and then come back and get Malik Neighbors, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka Nacua, in that category, even like Brian Thomas, right, coming back.
And I forgot to mention he did miss 2 games as well.
He missed some time
at the end of this season.
Compared to get in right. or settle in for like Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, and CeeDee Lamb, I guess is the best way to say it. Because I do want I would rather have the quarterback at slightly more.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I don't know that the tier of Malik and Amon-Ra are that far away from any of those players, really. I mean, Jamar Chase, it's tough because at the end of any incredible year, that guy seems to put himself above everybody else. Like after last year, it was CeeDee Lamb was the number 1 guy, and before that, Justin Jefferson was the number 1 guy. And so right now, Jamar Chase feels like he's in a tier of his own. I don't really see that changing because I think T's gone, so I think that stays. But outside of Jamar Chase, I'm not sure that Malik Neighbors and St. Brown are in a different tier than Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb.
I still have Justin Jefferson in the same tier as Jamar Chase. I think I still have Justin Jefferson as my wide receiver 1 in Dynasty.
Right. And I wouldn't have a strong argument against that.
I'm not seeing much of a difference between Jefferson, CeeDee, or Jamar Chase. Mm-hmm. To your point,
yeah,
those guys are kind of all the top dogs.
Do you see much like Malik Neighbors and Amon-Ra? Do you see them differently than you do CeeDee Lamb and Jefferson and those guys?
Not much, but yes, there's a difference. There's a tier break, but it's not like you're not jumping off the edge of the Grand Canyon to the next tier. You know what I mean? You're stepping down just slightly, in my opinion.
I'd rather have Malik Neighbors than CeeDee Lamb.
Okay, so you would have a lot of those guys in a similar.
I just want the 21-year-old that just put up 109 receptions at working on a really bad team. He looks that good.
And the hard part is Amon-Ra is not as sexy as those guys, but he's so freaking consistent.
Yeah, he's only 25 years old,
and he's so young. Another 18.6 points per game. He's so.
See, this is where the Dynasty.
I mean, CD's only 25 as well. I mean,
all these guys are fairly
super young. And again, when things are this close, right? When again, this is no damn the CeeDee Lamb, right? Or your Puka, or
and that's what I was trying to affirm your point in. I feel like that gap is so minuscule between those guys compared to the gap between those quarterbacks and the next tier of quarterbacks is much larger.
And startup wise, those are decisions that I try to make my first 3 picks of okay, how good, but how young can I get to? In rounds 1 through 3, I try to get a core of really high end good names, but also the youngest guys at that core.
There's I gotta have them guys, right? I mean, and you want to come out of the top 3 or 4 rounds with hopefully 3 or 4 of those guys. I gotta have them. I mean, if you don't, you start feeling pretty crappy pretty quickly.
Yeah, and Malik he headlines that, right? Same thing between I said on the last show, Josh Allen, Jane Daniels. Like Josh Allen to me is the clear-cut one. If you tell me who's the best and who do I want. But in the startup, it's like, you know what? Like I feel pretty good about Jane Daniels too. That gives me 4 more years, which is a very long time of playing Dynasty Fantasy Football. It's like, okay, I kind of lean that way. Same thing, CeeDee Lamb. It's just 4 years, but like that's 4 years I don't have to worry about my wide receiver 1. And then in 3 years, when Malik is 24, if my team's sideways, that's drastically different than a 29-year-old, 28-year-old CeeDee Lamb.
It's Jeremiah Smith time.
100%. So, like, again, splitting hairs, but when you're on, the reason it's important is, like, when you're on the clock, these are decisions you have to make. You don't get, I'll take this and this. You get one of these guys.
So we started talking about a lot of these guys already. Let's go 13 through 24.
Go on.
All right. Malik Neighbors at 13. 14, we got Amon-Ra St. Brown, then Puka Nacua, Jahmyr Gibbs at 16. We've got a run of quarterbacks 17 through 19 as C.J. Stroud, Jordan Love, Caleb Williams. Breaking up the quarterbacks, we've got Trey McBride at 20, then Drake Maye at 21, Nico Collins at 22, Marvin Harrison at 23, and then the last guy of the round, Brian Thomas at 24. The 2 guys we just talked about in the last show.
Yeah, I have a massive problem with C.J. Stroud's ADP.
It feels very high.
It does feel
at 17 overall. Like taking him ahead of Jordan Love and Caleb Williams doesn't make sense to me. And even
Drake Maye,
or even Drake Maye for what Drake Maye showed us this year. It looks like C.J. Stroud kind of, again, of course he's super young as well. Will he grow? I can't say he is what he is, but like he looks like what he is, like a mid-range quarterback, like fantasy football quarterback. A talented NFL quarterback, but somebody doesn't offer much on the ground at all. Running the ball, and he's just okay, right?
He plays more like Jared Goff than he does Justin Herbert.
Yes,
and I think that's where I'm more comfortable with C.J. Stroud, even though he's young, which helps him a little bit. But like, I expect him more to be quarterback 10 to 14 most years, more so than I expect him to be quarterback like top 6 type of level.
Yeah, and same thing when it comes down to ADP, like when you're on the clock, you're going to make these decisions, right? You're going to go ahead and feel comfortable taking C.J. Stroud there because he's a name. He's a Pro Bowler. He's super young. When he ended up finishing on the year, what did he finish on the year? C.J. Stroud is quarterback number 18, right?
And that was without missing any games.
That's not missing any games. When you can take shoot for upside way later and get a Bo Nix who finishes quarterback 9 as a rookie, higher than C.J. Stroud has ever finished, right? You get Bo Nix. We mentioned Drake Maye. He didn't finish higher than C.J. Stroud. On a points per game basis, he did. On a points per game basis, that's the thing. You mentioned C.J. Stroud didn't miss any games. He finished as quarterback 18. On a points per game basis, he was like quarterback 26 on a points per game basis. So the fact that you can go ahead and wait and get like a Bo Nix a couple rounds later pulls – with his ADP where it is right now, and I think I said this a couple of weeks ago, like, see, I'm selling C.J. Stroud where his current value is. Like, I mean,
I can't believe it's still that high. Honestly.
That's the thing. That's what I was going to ask.
I feel this is gross to say, but how the season ended, I feel just as good about Bryce Young as I do about C.J. Stroud from a fantasy football production standpoint. I know it sounds gross. I said it.
The job security is like night and day, and I think that's the big thing.
I'm just telling you.
I think, but there is a tier of like I think he belongs, and we'll get to it. I think he belongs in this beginning of the 4th round tier of quarterbacks. That's where I feel C.J. Stroud belongs, and we'll get to those names in a second. But
okay, so C.J. Stroud, obviously, at the end of last year's rookie season, he was going top 3.
He was usually the 3rd, if not or 4th quarterback off the board.
Right. So, what has changed in your guys' opinion? We just know what he is now. He hasn't been.
He didn't build on what he did as a rookie.
Right.
And I think that's what I wanted to see because, yes, he was young, and he finished as quarterback 10, which is good.
Right.
Like, to do that as a rookie, it's good. But he basically showed us the entire bag. Like, here's my whole bag. Here's what I've got. I'm going to give it to y'all right away. And that only gets him to quarterback 10. And I think that's the hard part is, like, what else does he have left to, yes, the excuse you could give him this year was his wide receivers were a mess with injuries, and that's absolutely accurate. But that being said, even if they were good, where would he be? Probably quarterback 10.
Yeah.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the thing.
I'm not really arguing.
Right.
I just wanted that to be said on the podcast.
He's
so
like
I ask questions like that sometimes.
knowing
the answer, but just
to play devil's advocate a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's like if like Russell Wilson was telling the truth. He's Mr. Limited, not unlimited.
He is a bit limited. I agree.
Listen, I said this after his rookie year. I said, from what I saw, I was like, the only reason he's ranked so high is because of his age and what he gives you. Like, he's not like an elite player. You're paying that price for the youth.
What I want to know is who do we have overranked now after 1 year?
We could talk about that real quick though. That
Don't
was,
you dare say Bo Nix. I will
I
fight you on the show.
Say nothing. I didn't say nothing yet. Don't even put that on evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
But that's who you were going to say.
No wish. But all that being said, that was a big talking point. I remember a couple times when we talked about ADP and specifically like startup mocks this offseason was, hey, he's going as quarterback 3 or 4. In third or fourth overall pick. And I remember specifically saying, like, and stating it like firmly, I hate to be in this spot. I do not want to take CJ Stroud here because I see him the same as quarterbacks 11 and 12, guys like Caleb Williams and Justin Herbert. Like, I feel exactly the same about them. Like, so why am I wasting the third overall pick?
Artificially inflating this value.
Yes. Why can't, like, I'm trading back to 12 or trying to get the 12th pick instead because I feel exactly the same about, and now I feel even better about those guys. But that was a big thing for me all year. I was like, I do not want to be picking third or fourth because it feels like a waste.
Yeah, I want to say I said this, but I have no proof, and I'm probably just making this up. But I use Brock Purdy as a comp. I've been saying this for 2 years. I remember even going like me and Ryan McDowell were at a bar. And I was like, I was drinking. I was like, who's the most undervalued dynasty player out there in Superflex is? It's Brock Purdy. Once this guy gets an extension, Ryan's like, yeah, you're probably right. Same thing. Like where their ADP is, like why take CJ Stroud there when you just go ahead and get Brock Purdy?
And we're still in the same boat. It's still just way too high. Now, fortunately, you're not paying early first round startup. You're paying mid to early second, but it's still too high.
Yeah, way too high. For you to take CJ Stroud, and then you pass up guys like Brian Thomas Jr., for example, right? Like, it makes no sense.
Any of those receivers. I would take
Trey
all
McBride,
of those receivers.
every one of those
Nico,
receivers.
Marvin, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, A.J. Brown, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Give me all of them.
Yeah, and then be just as comfortable getting back quarterback 12 last year, Brock Purdy, Bo Nix, Trevor Lawrence, if you want to hope for the upside of Trevor Lawrence, who's only 25 years old. Baker Mayfield, who's older.
We'll be talking
Kyler
about
Murray, who's a disappointment this year, but still finishes running back.
This ADP sheet's going to be attached, right, to the show sheet. People can look.
Yeah, we can put it on there.
It's also on DynastyNerds.com. It's also on the Dynasty Nerds app. We have ADP there as well, but this is an Excel sheet that Garrett will take there. Anybody else on this in the second round ADP like stick out at you that really kind of get you going?
I don't have any strong issues with any of the other ones. I think the rest of them feel about right.
Yeah.
What about those other quarterbacks? Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, Drake Maye.
Yeah.
I'd like May to be highest on this. Like I have him right now as my 16th overall player. He's 21st, so it's 5 spots. So I'm not gonna like throw a fit over it, but I'd like him to be higher.
I think you and I both have him significantly higher. I know we're giving Matt a hard time about he says he's going to move Drake Maye up, but saying that this is ADP. This isn't
our rankings.
This isn't rankings.
Correct.
So this is ADP. But I have Drake Maye is my top 12 overall.
Any concern with Drake Maye being that guy that kind of falls off? We totally, obviously they moved on from the head coach. Now there's talk about Josh McDaniels coming in and kind of being that offensive coordinator for Mike Vrabel. Any concern that transition is not going to be as smooth as we're hoping?
No, because
we've seen Josh McDaniels do sweet things with quarterbacks before.
No, but I've seen Mike Vrabel turn Ryan Tannehill into a very suitable top 10 quarterback in back-to-back years. And for me, Drake Maye showed us, kind of goes back to that Malik Neighbors comment of like, look what he did with nothing around him. Look what Drake Maye did with like literally nothing around. Like your number one receiver is Javon Baker or Jalen Coker. You know what I mean? Like, so for me,
I think Maye has done well.
Yeah, for the team,
For sure.
they bring in a very good head coach where I feel confident enough that Vrabel won't just bring in Josh McDaniels because he's going to bring in the best thing for Drake Maye. They have an unbelievable amount of draft pick money. Money. They have the most money,
Yep.
and they have a very high draft pick. And they clearly know they got to build around.
Where are they
Drake Maye.
drafting? They won, didn't they?
4th?
Yeah, so they kind of slid down a bit, right? 4th.
Yeah. So to me, like this is a very good spot for T. Higgins to land because they have the money to pay him, and they need to get Drake Maye number 1 receiver. Which again, that would boost up Drake Maye. They're in a really good spot to draft the best offensive lineman available there. Again, to help Drake Maye, I think the clear-cut blueprint here for the New England Patriots is to build around Drake Maye. I saw enough for him with his rushing ability, with his arm to put in my top 12. The fact that he's so young, one of the youngest quarterbacks in the NFL today. Again, over that C.J. Stroud, like I would much rather bank on a Drake Maye than I would a C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, 421 yards rushing for May, just for the record.
For what it's worth, like if you go to Fantasy Pros right now and you're only looking at points per game, he'll look disappointing because it says 13.4, but it's factoring in 4 games that you could easily exclude. The first 2 he didn't even start; he just came in at the end of the games to finish. The last game of the season, they gave him 1 series,
Series 1 at 10,
and the week 17 he left injured due to a concussion. So if you take the games he started and finished, 17.5 points per game. So 17.5 would put you right now right above Justin Herbert, just behind Patrick Mahomes as a top 12 quarterback.
With nothing around him.
And you guys have him where quarterback wise?
I have him at quarterback 9.
I have him quarterback 9, I believe, 2. Okay. Let me go back here. I actually have him as quarterback number 7 overall. Okay. He's my number 1. When I get past those top couple guys, Drake Maye is my number 1 startup quarterback that I want to get. You can get him right around the 3rd round, like the middle of the 3rd round. He's my number, like, when I say, okay, I'm taking Bijan Robinson and...
I mean, this is right around the 2nd round is where we have the ADP.
ADP, yeah. So the back end of the 2nd, like, he makes me totally comfortable, like, taking Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Bijan Robinson, where I normally, like, he falls in that category of, like, okay, because I always have to ask myself, right? Like, I always take a quarterback in the 1st round. If I don't take a quarterback,
who am I getting?
Who is my quarterback?
Yep.
Because then I know I got to attack that pretty hot, like heavy afterwards. Which again, it's not a problem. Drake Maye is my number 1 guy.
In the 2 mocks that I've done recently, one on the show and one for the writing staff, I've taken Drake Maye as the 15th player and the 16th player off the board in both those as my QB1. I kind of ended up in the same spot in both drafts. I had picked 9 and picked 10, and I got Bijan in the 1st and Drake Maye in the 2nd in both drafts and felt great about it.
So you take Malik Neighbors, Bijan Robinson, Amon-Ra in the 1st, and then you come back with Drake Maye. And I feel really good about that instead of coming back like, with a CJ Stroud, or someone on those lines.
Yep.
So, and the same thing, if I had Caleb, I feel good about it. If I have Jordan Love, I feel good about it. But like it starts to end. Once I get past Drake Maye, the only guys I feel pretty good about having, like I feel pretty good about Brock Purdy, right? I feel pretty good with Baker Mayfield.
Feel very good with Baker.
And I feel pretty good with Bo Nix, what he did his rookie year. No, that's not true because I actually feel pretty good with, like, if I had Jared Goff, I feel good. If I have Michael Penix, I feel kind of good.
Michael Penix, yeah. I don't think there was a large enough sample size to feel great about it. Like, you feel hopeful, I think. I don't know that you feel secure.
But those are guys I'm target. Like, Michael Penix falls in the category, okay, I take Malik Neighbors 1. I get Drake Maye 2. One of those tight ends I love fall to 3, or do I double down on receiver, or do I grab my running back? Knowing then, okay, Superflex, who am I targeting next? Who do I feel comfortable with? Like, okay, I feel good with Jared Goff as my quarterback 2. I do feel good with Baker Mayfield as my quarterback 2. I feel good with Michael Penix as my quarterback 2.
If I took Drake Maye, though, I would probably be targeting
Dak. Somebody like that.
Dak, but yeah, Goff and Mayfield before Penix, just for the safety and security purposes. I would probably do that.
See, if I went Penix as my 2, though, then I'm targeting, like, okay, Matt Stafford,
as your 3
Smith, instead of, like, I would just offset that, right?
That's
like,
fair.
That's what I would do. Like, I know if I grabbed him as my 2, like, okay, I got May and Penix, like, I'm grabbing Stafford, I'm grabbing Geno Smith.
Maybe even
they
around
will be
early.
There. Or if anything, another young option, again, a Bryce Young. Like, Bryce Young is my favorite quarterback 3 to grab right now. Like again,
Sure.
I have him circled as like value because again he's still in that
value,
category.
but right. I mean, it's.
He showed me enough at the end of the year. Again,
I think he's going to get
about
this year, but after that, if he doesn't,
yeah, you're right.
if he doesn't get them to the playoffs, are they going to keep moving forward with this guy? I don't know. I don't know if I'd feel great about that.
I don't think playoffs is the outlier for him. I think if he looked as good as he did in the second half of the season last year when he came back in, that's good. He looked good.
He did.
He didn't look like
I think he has to be.
He's better than before. He looked good.
I think he has to be more than just not the problem, though, in order to keep that job.
I mean, to be fair,
in year 3.
Going forward.
He was put in a really bad situation. He had nothing around him.
Absolutely.
No draft capital. So
I'm not saying he didn't look better because I don't want it to sound like that.
I have no idea how I turned into this on the show, the big Bryce Young.
Truther.
Like, so, yeah, because even like when you guys are like, oh, he's dead in the water. I'm like, I don't know if he is really, like the number one pick. And I was the one that probably doo-dooed on the most when we were breaking down this tape. But, like, he's shown me enough that I feel like he's tremendous value. I would be buying Bryce Young for his – again, what does ADP tell me? It just tells me where the value is.
Yeah.
As a dynasty player, that's all I'm always trying to do is find value, right? That's what I'm moving players. I'm trading away. I'm buying. I'm drafting, all on value and upside. And that's all it is. And I think Bryce Young right now offers that value. As my quarterback 3, I feel good about it. That's all.
The FFPC playoff challenges are back for another season. Just pick 12 players, one from each playoff team, and ride them all the way to the big dance. It's that simple. Over $1.8 million is on the line between the 2 contests exclusively at FFPC.
Round 3, ADP, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Drake London at 27, A.J. Brown, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Kyler there at 30, Bo Nix, Devon Achane, Sam Laporta, Ladd McConkey, Saquon Barkley, and then Brock Purdy round out round 3. So we start to see fewer quarterbacks in this round. For me, overall, there was nothing I had a huge issue with in round 3, whereas in round 1, round 2, I had some issues, and we'll definitely get to some issues in some later rounds that I have. But 3 felt like, okay. I'll move a guy spot 2 or 3 spots here and there, but I'm good with it.
Ladd McConkey's a little too low for me.
Of course he is.
Shocker.
Devon Achane's a little too low for me.
Achane was the one that I'm looking at kind of going,
I have him above Breece.
He slipped a bit right there, you know what I mean?
Even Saquon for what he did. Know what you're going to get for the next 3 years out of Saquon? That's really good value.
It's the age, I think, for Saquon.
It's the age, and now it's dude just ran for 2,000 yards, and they're going to ride him through the whole playoffs. Man.
You're right. That's probably fair.
That's what I'm nervous about
startup value.
For Saquon.
Honestly, the only one I kind of had an issue with was Sam Laporta. And this is maybe just more about my personal strategy. After McBride and Bowers, if I miss on them, I'm not going to play that Russian roulette of tight ends unless they're a value. Then I'll take one of them at a value. But this just doesn't feel like a value for Laporta to me. So
even tight end premium, you're right. Even for what he did this year, go ahead and give me Bucky Irvin, and I'll settle with Njoku. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I agree 100%. And same thing. I just started a last nurse stand-in. They started 2 last nurse stand-in leagues because I'm a degenerate. And I picked 10, and Brock Bowers went 12, and Ladd McConkey went 13. And then I don't know who it went, and I was like, man, I really hope Bowers comes back to me because I took Devon Achane at 10.
Mm-hmm.
And it came back, and I was like, well, there goes Bowers. I was like, I still don't have my receiver because I took a running back here. I was like, man, I really want Ladd McConkey. I was so close to taking him. He actually went the next pick. But I took Trey McBride because I was like, listen, because the last nurse stand-in, if you don't know, it's a 5-year league. That's all. Mm-hmm. They run 5-year. The 2 lowest scores are eliminated every year. You put $100 in a pot. Everybody keeps paying. Nobody gets paid out until the end. The last 4 play for 80 and 20% of the pot. So I was like, man, that's not something you just usually draft and plug and play either. If I don't have McBride, I don't even know what I have at tight end. I'm just waiting. No. So I went and took McBride. Same thing, because I'm with you. Top 2, everybody else I could wait on. There's no difference to me at that point.
Yep, exactly.
Totally agree. Yep.
All right, Matt, do we have why don't you give us from 30? We're in the 4th round now, ADP, 37 on.
37 is Anthony Richardson. 38, Baker Mayfield. 39, Trevor Lawrence. 40, T. Higgins. 41, Kyron Williams. 42, Jonathan Taylor. 43, Christian McCaffrey. 44, Romo Dunze. 45, Jared Goff. 46, Devontae Smith. 47, Tyreek Hill. And 48, Rashee Rice.
Oof.
Boy, do I got some issues.
Yes.
I have no idea how Anthony Richardson is a borderline third round, fourth round pick. Like he should be in Bryce Young range where like,
yes,
are you willing to gamble on the upside?
His completion percentage starts with the number 4. That's all you need.
You should be concerned if it starts with a 5.
That's
what it was.
opposite of bag,
That's
bro.
what it was in college every single year. Now it's slipped down to the 4s. 47.7.
And you look at all of
completion
these other
percentage.
guys, and I'm going to throw Brock Purdy into this because he was taking just the one pick before.
Sure.
So, like, Brock Purdy, like, yes, he doesn't have his contract yet. He's going to get it.
Yep.
Like, he's been really solid, really steady.
They already said they're going to give it to him.
Yes.
Baker Mayfield finished his quarterback freaking
Career
4
year, 41 touchdown passes.
right after a year where he was awesome, and we're still like, maybe we'll take Anthony Richardson. Like, what are we doing here?
Dude, all these quarterbacks.
Now, Trevor
take
Lawrence is the one where it's like, I get it. He hasn't been great, but
He's
been
25 years old. I'm going to get a whole new coaching system.
he's been infinitely better than Anthony Richardson has. Like, so while I would still take Mayfield and Purdy well above Trevor Lawrence, like I'm a little more comfortable with Lawrence. Like he's more in the golf range for me. Like he at least makes sense in this area. Anthony Richardson has no business being within 3 rounds of here.
Agreed.
No, I'd take J.J. McCarthy over Anthony Richardson.
Yep.
On the upside.
100% of
So
the
Anthony,
time.
Anthony Richardson here screams to me. You're right, closer to the Bryce Young, and I honestly probably just rather have Bryce Young. than Anthony
It's a coin
Which
flip
I-
for me.
which
Like,
is gross to say too. But like right now, like Matt said, that 40% completion percentage, that is all the writing on the wall that you
I
need.
would rather have Bryce Young.
I think I would too. I think he feels safer,
Looks like a quarterback.
but I get like if at that point you're just like, I don't care, I just want upside, then like I get it taking Anthony Richardson because whatever. But like Bryce feels like the guy that has the better shot to stick at this point.
like a
Agreed.
bold prediction show for next year. Like if I had to do it right now, I'd be like, oh, Anthony Richardson won't be the Colts starting quarterback after week 7. You know, rather buy.
They're talking about bringing in real
I'm not even
competition
sure
at-
that would qualify
Yeah.
at this
So
point. Like
I hate that one. And another one I don't really like here too is Tyreek Hill at wide receiver
Agreed.
47. I know he said he had a broken wrist, but he's a 31. He's gonna be a 31-year-old receiver. It just doesn't. It doesn't matter if you're Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins. Like it starts to go pretty quickly
Yeah.
at this point. I mean, sometimes you get some outliers like Adam Thielen at 33, kind of really overtook that. And
Never really a speed guy. So he
True.
didn't rely on that.
Yeah.
So I think that's allowed him to kind of keep this thing going. He still has his savviness. He's still able to kind of separate. But a guy like Tyreek Hill is all speed. So that is one that I'm concerned about kind of falling off rather quickly.
and I know he didn't play this because he got hurt, but like taking him ahead of Rashee Rice, silly.
bingo.
Taking him ahead of Bucky Irvin, absolute utter nonsense. I would give Tyreek Hill plus for Bucky Irvin. Plus. Like,
Oh.
like easily a second.
Yep.
I'd give a second plus Tyreek Hill for Bucky Irvin. I would give probably a first plus for Rashee Rice.
For-
or Tyreek Hill and a first for Rashee Rice.
Yeah, Rice is another one that is baffling to me because I see him very similar to Ladd McConkey, who is 14 picks ahead. Like
Yep.
I would see them in a similar type range to me. So the fact that he's this far, how do we feel about the running backs in here? Because I'm torn on it. Like I'm a guy that's willing to take running backs a little bit earlier, but it's similar to tight end for me where I want those elite guys or I want to wait. And so I tend to get Bijan and Gibbs a lot, but I don't typically take running back in the 4th. I get it. Kyron's still fairly young. Jonathan Taylor is kind of like right at the prime of his career.
He looked really good at the end of the year,
He
too.
crushed. He crushed at the end of the year. McCaffrey's past his prime with the injury, but we know who he is and what he could still do. Like, I don't think these are bad picks necessarily. I just don't think I could personally pull the trigger on any of these guys in the fourth.
I you know what? I could see pulling the trigger, Jonathan Taylor.
I could do.
That's
I
the
could
one
do
that's
Taylor.
the closest stop.
Yep.
Closest stop.
Yeah, he's
For sure.
probably the only one because I know it's splitting hairs, but like in a fifth round, I'd view Christian McCaffrey at some value. And it also comes down to, again, this is ADP, like how your draft is going, right? Like if you go quarterback, receiver, some of those, like it all depends. Like you want your first running back. Like these are all names that are somewhat intriguing. Now, I would take Bucky Irvin.
I think he belongs in this tier with these guys. Yep.
I would take him ahead of Kyron. I would take him with Christian McCaffrey. Jonathan Taylor. He looks so good at the end of the year. Like that's really close for me as well. But like that's the end of those. Like once you get past Bucky Irvin, like I'm with you. I need one of those guys. Like I feel like the running back for me, like I always want to get just one early, and then I settle for a whole bunch of like running back 2, like backup running backs, and then like the older running backs.
Connor, Najee.
Like I attack those guys, knowing that I'm gonna fill those in my rookie draft afterwards. So like I try to get guys that like like Jalen Wright's really high on my list as somebody kind of grab along those lines as a back. Like some of the guys I think that get some opportunity. And then if I draft James Conner, I'm drafting Trey Benson. But like after those guys, I mean, I guess it's like that comes in the haves and have-nots. So I understand it. I'm with you. I wouldn't take him there.
Mm-hmm.
If I did take one here, the guy I would want would be Bucky Irvin. Like he falls in that category of I love for him to be my first running back off the board.
Right.
Like,
and you're willing to maybe reach a hair because you believe in him that much.
Yeah, 100%. So like right there at the top of the fourth, like if I have, say I pick whatever, 2, whatever, whoever does the first couple picks in the fourth, like I would attack and grab Bucky Irvin to start that running back run. Give me the young guy. Because same thing for running backs. I want all youth. Like old guys don't do it for me. The only one I'm even remotely interested that's older is Saquon. He'd be the only one I'm like, okay, I feel pretty good about this.
All right, let me go through the rest of these since we already talked about Bucky Irvin so much.
Sure.
Let's move on to 49. Bucky Irvin, 50. Chris Olave, 51. Kenneth Walker, 52. Josh Jacobs, 53. Jalen Waddle, 54. Michael Penix, 55. Zay Flowers, 56. Dak Prescott, 57. George Pickens, 58, James Cook, 59, DJ Moore, and 60, Tua. I can never say his last name correct. So
Tagovailoa.
Thank you. So I'm just not going to say it.
I like this tier because I feel like you're starting when you get here. You're getting to the beginning. You're getting to you're very close to the end of the force, right? Like you're getting close to the muddy marsh. That is just
But
nasty.
all these players are still good. You feel good about getting all these guys. Right?
You feel like value. Like, oh, dude, I got James Cook here, like late. Like, I feel really good about that. I got Zay Flowers here. I feel really good about that. Obviously, George Pickens, I don't know how I feel about that. But, like, same thing. Michael Penix, I feel really good about that.
I like the Dak Prescott value.
Good value.
He's dropped a lot compared to last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of his injury. And
he'll be
just
32 next year.
And in quarterback years, like
not too bad.
Not too bad. Easily expect 3 more years, but you could get 6 or 7.
Yep, absolutely.
Really weird with all that. Like obviously with Dion being mentioned with the news, like all the news is okay. Then the Cowboys would trade up the number to like
maybe 2 with the Browns
and trade and give it up. But like everything I read, like obviously living in Cleveland, a cap guy already put an article out said it's almost impossible to do for how much money, how much dead cap that Dallas would have. Even if they trade it, like, oh, hey, we'll give you number 2. You got to take Deshaun Watson's contract. Give us Dak in 12. You know, like, Dallas would have such a big cap hit. But at the same time, maybe they'd be like, whatever, we're getting Shedeur Sanders on a rookie contract. Like, who cares? Like, it's not a big deal.
I would love to get rid of that contract and take Dax.
Is there any shot of them voiding that thing? Or is they're just grasping at straws, right?
I think
they're hoping that he did something that he wasn't supposed to do in his rehab.
Listen,
they can void
they're going to try really hard. I know he made a TikTok. We were studying that in New York this past weekend. Yep. And they'll do everything they can. But at the same time, they have insurance out on that contract as well. So they're going to get, even though they owe $95 million still like guaranteed, they insured that for $44 million for 2025. So if he doesn't play in all 2025, which he's not going to play, and I guarantee they don't let him because of injury, they will make sure he gets cleared, they will get $44 million of that back in cap relief for 2026. So the fact that he did that is actually like a godsend for the Browns, for cap relief wise, in 2026, not 2025. So it's not as bad. And that's when they plan on really moving out. That's why they redid his contract. So they move on to it for him after 2025. Right. So it should be okay. Yeah, would they do it? Yeah, I would do it for Dak, of course. Who wouldn't want to do that as a Browns fan? But you're right. Value here, though, with Dak Prescott, all these guys. I mean, the only one I'd probably feel a little bit nervous right now is like George Pickens. Like there's some receivers behind him here. Mm-hmm. Some tight ends that went behind him that I feel a little bit more comfortable with than George Pickens, even though I just said in the last show I thought he'd be a top 6 receiver. Love the talent, but the brain, listen, once you're a knucklehead, unless you're unbelievably talented, like Stephon Diggs.
Like
Tyreek Hill. It's like most guys that are knuckleheads, like locker room guys, are problems. It's real hard for those guys to pan out in the long run unless they end up special.
Agree. Yeah. So, no, George Pickens, I think, is a special talent. I just don't know that he's more special than he is a knucklehead. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You have to have that
weight.
The weight, I think he's more knucklehead than special talent.
Even for a guy like I don't love, like a DK Metcalf. Like, man, I just feel more comfortable with DK.
Play it safe-ish.
A guy who doesn't have a highs and upside, like a Jordan Addison, Brandon Ayuk, guys on those lines. Like, or even like tight ends we haven't talked about, like a TJ Hockenson. I'd much rather have than that.
Let's from here on, because we could talk about all the different rounds. Are there just a few that stuck out to you from here on out that you're like, this is either really good or really poor value?
Yeah, I'll name a couple here, guys, off of my top of my head. Obviously, TJ Hockenson here. Late, I know he didn't have a great year, but still, like when it comes down to tight ends, to have-nots. Like this is the range I'd feel really good about grabbing a Hockenson right around the 5th, 6th round. I'd feel pretty good about that.
How much of the season did he miss? Because it was quite a bit, and
a lot.
He still had pretty decent numbers when I looked last. Sorry, I can't find him. Go ahead. Sorry, I'll get back.
I think Chuba Hubbard here, when you miss out on running back who just signed that extension in Carolina, knowing Jonathan Brooks probably won't play at all in 2025 as well. They get a younger running back who just signed an extension here at ADP of 79. I feel pretty good about that value there. Jerry Jeudy at 87, who just signed an extension in Cleveland. The clear number 1 receiver there, coming off a wide receiver 1 year, going all the way down here past guys like Keon Coleman.
I think that's the QB effect, right? No one knows who the hell's going to be throwing him the ball, what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally fair. But he still finished as just imagine the QB situation he was in. He still finished as a wide receiver 1 there in Cleveland. So getting him right here as your wide receiver 3, tremendous value. Tank Dell at 94 is way too high after that.
Gruesome.
He's not playing 25 either. I mean, that was a gruesome injury to the point of like he may never. And listen, he ended his rookie year, same thing, broke his leg because he was so small. Destroys his leg this time around, like
dislocated kneecap, ACL, all sorts of.
So to see him in a top 100, when he's almost like I'll rank him quarterly, he's almost off my board. Like to take Tank Dell over Matt Stafford or Deebo Samuel or even a guy like Tony Pollard is kind of silly to me.
He's just if you're drafting a guy like that in a startup, you're just hoping that he comes back like in a year. Like you're hoping that in a year he's back.
Which would be a growth year. He probably won't have a good year as soon as he comes back, so they get back and get his feet out from under him. So you're talking like 3 years before you even know what you have. Like not in the top 100, right?
I would rather a lot of the older receivers behind him, Chris Godwin, Debo, Cortland Sutton. Like I would rather just take all of those.
Yeah, and gamble on other young
and
guys.
Get 2 years out of them, and then just pick another Tank Dell out of a draft somewhere down the road.
Gamble on like Xavier Legette, like one of your guys. You know what I mean? Gamble on the upside of someone who just looked pretty good at running back 18, J.K. Dobbins. Like there's so many different ways I'd rather go because at the same time too, like Tank Dell is only going to get cheaper. Like this time next year, Tank Dell will be significantly cheaper than this. He probably won't be in the top 150. If I'm being honest.
One of the ones that's the most surprising to me is Tucker Kraft.
Yep, I was looking at that too.
Tucker Kraft coming in at pick 110 overall, quarterback 12. For me right now in my rankings, I either have him as tight end 4 or 5 in my rankings. And
he's an impressive dude, man.
He's a really, really talented player. And then you factor in Christian Watson just tore his ACL again. Yep. So there's another receiver gone from this group.
It was more than his ACL too. I think it was like
it might have been. It was a nasty injury. And then you look at like all of the guys ahead of him, like Kyle Pitts is ahead of him. No, thank you. Travis Kelce's just so old at this point. I would much rather have Tucker Kraft. Njoku and Evan Ingram, I mean, they're fine, but the I think worst case scenario, he's similar to those guys, but his ceiling is so much higher, especially you add in the youth and all that. So for me, that was one of the most surprising ones to see him that low.
I'm with you there. I don't see anyone else sticking out like sore thumb, one way or the other. So I don't know.
No, I'm just trying to look like for value.
We were talking about Jalen McMillan earlier. I think Jalen McMillan's a really good one.
He's something I wrote down from the last 5 weeks of the season. Don't quote me on this because I had it written down, but he was he was like
7 touchdowns.
Wide receiver 8 or 7 overall. Like he really established himself that second half to let him walk out for Chris Godwin. He had to get out of all the ADP. I said the best value in my notes was Jalen McMillan. Like that I thought that was tremendous value for what he did over the last 5 games of the year.
Two more players I want to highlight real quick. They're back to back in ADP. We're down in the 140s here, so we're low. Rashid Shaheed, who was having a great year. Now,
fantastic.
Who knows what's going to happen with this team in the offseason, but we've talked about it before. They don't have a lot of money, so they can't bring in too many pieces. He's probably going to be having the opportunity, and the injury was early enough in the year that he should be good to go for the season. And then right after him, Juwan Jennings. Very shocked to see Juwan Jennings this low. As much as I love Adonai Mitchell, I would much rather have Juwan Jennings. Adonai Mitchell, or I just said it, Quentin Johnston. I would much rather have him than that guy. Marquise Brown, like why is Marquise Brown that high? So there's a lot of players that I would much rather have. Rashid Shaheed and Juwan Jennings. I think they're amazing value right there in the 140s.
Yeah, some good 150 value I see here is like that I'd be happy with is Cedric Tillman, Marshawn Lloyd, Ray Davis, back to back, 155, 156, 157 are guys that I like, again, both running backs for the chance to be the number one. I feel comfortable with them. Cedric Tillman, a chance to be that number 2 next to Jerry Jeudy. You and I just talked about him on the Nerd Herd show. And then once you get down to like the ugly ranges here, there's nobody else that even like fancies me at all, to be honest with you.
No, I mean, I think that's when you get to that part of the draft where you kind of just, you're picking to fill out rosters. You're not getting any diamonds in the rough.
Who has any upside at all.
Right. I mean, you're looking at Wan'Dale Robinson. Who knows? You know what I mean? At
a lot of running back twos is what you're looking at there.
Yeah, maybe Christian McCaffrey gets hurt again, so I'm going to take Isaac Rendo. Maybe, like
Jordan Mason is way down there as well, which I thought was kind of surprising. 178.
He's a free agent. I think that might have something to do with it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was brought back.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was brought back, and if he wasn't brought back, if he landed in a place like Miami and ended up being the number 2 guy there. You know what I mean?
Or Minnesota.
Right.
And,
yeah, absolutely.
I don't mind a guy who I like here. Again, this is a long shot. This is where we're at. 177, Daniel Jones. To be that late for how young he is. Just for
Sam
a
Darnold
chance. To end up like that Sam Darnold, increase the value. Because, again, once you get past that 150 mark right around there, so you're in those rounds, like you're just looking for upside, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how do I turn this? How do I increase this value? And this is gonna be wide receiver 1, running back 1, but like, how do I turn this into a second round pick, right? Like, so what are you looking at? You're looking at what I'm drafting here. Tons of tight ends because again, tight end 16 is pretty close to the value of tight end 9, so there's a chance for uptick. I'm drafting maybe a quarterback that has some upside, like Daniel Jones fits the bill this year. Baker would have fit it not too long ago. Sam Darnold kind of fit that mode a little bit too. And then I'm hammering these running back positions. Yep. Yeah, back because they're going to be. Why do you hammer the backup running back this late? The Isaac Rendos, the Tyler Algiers, the Braylon Allen's, the Jerome Fords, the Jordan Masons, the Alexander Madisons. They're going to be the number 1 likely opportunity for your dynasty team to flip that into a much higher value.
You could have done that this year with quite a few players, like a Rico Dottle.
Yeah,
was a great one that skyrocketed. Chase Brown skyrocketed.
Yeah,
a lot of guys. So yes,
you draft those guys not because you need them, because you want to flip those guys for second round picks or throw them in a package deal and upgrade a receiver. Or hey, Jordan Mason when he went down, people were getting first round picks for Jordan Mason when Christian McCaffrey went down. And then you have a guy like Jerome Ford when Nick Chubb goes down. You have 2 of those guys. You package those guys. You might be able to get a first-round pick.
Absolutely.
Which then turns into Ladd McConkey, right? Like that's how it's done. So like ADP-wise, it's all about value. And sometimes value is the opportunity of value. And that's what we talked about before. Like, yeah, you could sit here and take Jalen Polk, or you could take Demario Douglas, or you could take Alec Pierce or Michael Wilson in that range. That's usually like your wide receiver 7. Like, they're never going to sniff the field for your team.
They're
If
just
they
gonna
do, you're in bad
your,
shape.
Your roster.
100%. Because you're not going to cut them. You're not going to cut Alec Pierce.
Right.
When you could go ahead and draft somebody else, these running backs that you're most likely not going to start at all, but at least give you some upside and also make it much easier to cut.
And that's been a big thing for me. We've been talking about it, hitting on this podcast a lot, and on the Nerd Herd podcast, and on Talking Dynasty and everywhere. But like most of my teams now, I'm really trying to cut down my wide receiver. I used to roster 12, 13 wide receivers. I was like, why? Why am I rostering all these guys that will never see the field? So almost all of my wide receiver cores are 8, 7, sometimes even 6 wide receivers, because I only need to start 3 and then 1 or 2 in the flex spot. And then I need 1 or 2 for some depth. And then I'm really pretty good.
Yep. As long as they're good players, you're fine.
Yep. Another reason why I try to attack receiver early, because everywhere else I can fill out with like fluid positions. Yep. You know what I mean? It's like I want that core because I just don't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I set it, I forget it. I can set it and forget it for 9 years, which is, again, a lifetime in Dynasty.
3 years is a lifetime. Like,
it really is. So that's ADP. Again, that's on the Dynasty GM app. Make sure you get in there. We got the film room cooking in there. We got 500 hours worth of all
so much
22
tape.
film.
I watched Scattaboo today.
Ooh.
I like him.
I like when I saw Jared texted me. He's like, when you got time, I want you to tell me what you think of Cameron Scattaboo, which means I know he knows I'm going to like him 100%.
He's fun. He's a fun watch.
I mean,
I love
the
this
bowl
thing.
game that I watched was fun to watch.
He's going to run like a 4.65.
Yeah.
He's not going to be fast, but he breaks a lot of tackles.
You can't.
And he catches the ball well.
You can't teach contact balance. You can't teach.
He's got good feet too. For not, he doesn't have good linear speed, but he's got good agility, side to side quickness.
I was talking about that last week. I was like, man, for a guy for what I saw, like his lateral agility was pretty nice outside of his pass catching too. Because Mary was like, oh, I'll take him probably over Mario and Hampton, right? Or I think that's what it was.
And they have a very similar score for me. Him, Caleb Johnson, and Amari and Hampton all have a very similar score for me, which Amari and Hampton and Caleb Johnson are talked about as second-round picks, where Scattaboo is more like a fourth-round pick. I have almost identical scores on those guys. So he'll be –
I do have to watch this bowl game as a running back. I like it.
It'll be fun.
He just like that contact balance is so hard to teach. I know Ashton Genty's an interior of his own, but like it's one of those reasons why, again, different kind of player. He looks like a thicker, but like a player that I fell in love with, and we talked on Nice Nerds, was Kareem Hunt. Coming out of Toledo, we're like, man, this kid's contact balance and the way he and what else? His ability to catch the football, like not a speedster, but like that's what Scattaboo kind of reminded me a little bit of. You know, like that kind of mold, not the same player, but like those players that have those attributes like really stick out.
And he reminds me of Judkins in this class, where both these guys just run angry, like they run like their hair's on fire, they're ticked off. They're mad at the world. They got a chip on it. Like, that's how they run. And I do like that.
And that's what the film room gives you. So you can sit here. Listen, we do the most in-depth rookie breakdowns anywhere in the industry. We're going to break down all these players for you. That's great. Trust our opinion. Trust other people's opinions. But, like, nothing is better than putting your eyes on all 22 film. And we have that. We have the largest all 22 film library access in the business. Simple as the price of a cup of coffee a month. If you're like, hey, man, I don't really subscribe to certain sites. That's just not my jam. I don't pay for, like, people's, like, websites. Like, I don't pay for that kind of stuff. I understand that, too. Like, I understand mentality. Like, I'm going to do all my own work. Like, this is how I do it.
So even do your own work.
Even people that we know that work for major networks, some of the best in the business, they use our film room to study these rookies.
Yep.
And I mean the creme de la creme of fantasy analysts.
Even if you're lucky enough to find all 22 tape, you're going to be watching hours worth, because you're watching every play, offense and defense. We cut it up to just the plays that they're on the field, so you get it in 5 to 7 minutes.
Yeah, you can watch the entire. Yeah. Our film room isn't the whole game. It's literally every snap that they're on the field. Yep. If they run a route or they're on the field during that route,
pass blocking, whatever.
Until the play's done, it is. So you can watch the whole game in 5 minutes. You get that. You get the Nerd Score. You get the Dynasty GM app. You get the film room. You get so much for the price of a cup of coffee. It's the best bang for your buck. And listen, I know right now in today's economy and today's day and age, like, money's not as nice as it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But, you know, with this kind of investment, how much time you put into it, even if you're around for the small window of the draft window, which is going to cost you probably $20, it's the best investment you can make for your dynasty.
Absolutely.
Join Nerd today. Check it out. If I'm lying, I'll give you your money back. Psych. No refunds. See you next week.
Adios.
Hey, Nerd Herd, Dynasty Nerds has an incredible new offer from Underdog Fantasy for new customers. When you sign up as a new customer, you'll get a chance at their new customer free pick. But that's not all. Underdog is also offering incredible deposit bonuses. Use the promo code NERDS when you first sign up, and Underdog will give you up to $1,000 in bonus cash with your first deposit. That's right, $1,000 to kickstart your fantasy football journey. Don't miss out on this fantastic opportunity. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the Underdog app. Sign up today with promo code NERDS and start your journey to fantasy football glory today. Must be 18, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. In New York, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. And in Tennessee, call 1-800-889-9789.